Hello Capricorn friends, I'm Annie Botticelli and welcome to my video, June 2020 Astrology, Capricorn Must Knows. We're going to talk about the major highlights of the aspects that are occurring this month, and we have a lot of them. 2 of the 3 eclipses, including an eclipse that's opposing your sign, Mercury Retrograde, including that's also opposing your sign. We have Venus Retrograde still, and we have the Jupiter-Pluto in Capricorn, your sign, conjunction, which is the second time these bad boys of the outer arenas are coming together. And we're going to talk about what all that could mean for you all and which of you are going to be most affected by these placements. So we've got Mercury retrograde this month, Venus retrograde, we've got the eclipses, we've got these power hitters coming together. And in general, when we have a month that is just completely covered in retrograde energy, this means we're looking backwards and inwards more. It's not the time to push and force. It's not the time to try to stick to things exactly in a rigid way, because eclipses and retrogrades both have a way of canceling things, changing things that we thought were going to happen, and offering opportunities that take us on completely different trajectories. So I always recommend scheduling light, even depending on what level of quarantine is occurring in different areas of the world for people watching this at this point. It doesn't matter if you're on quarantine. People are still making plans and still doing things on the phone or whatever. And just know that when you make these plans in the energies like this, it's very much tentative, changeable. And the more relaxed you can be and expectant that things are going to change, the less you'll get whacked out when they do change. The energy of this month is very much like a situation that people encounter when they're learning to knit or crochet. Okay, so I'm going to explain this for you. I like to use these analogies so that you understand the energies that you're working with, and you get these visuals throughout the month. When it starts happening, then you're like, oh right, that's how she described it, and that's what's happening. So it helps to really bring home and bring practical the understandings from astrology into our daily experience. So when you're learning to crochet or knit, let's say you're making a scarf, which is a super simple first thing to do. You just have to make your straight lines. Okay, so what inevitably happens if you're not counting your stitches is that the one line stays straight, and then the other one, if you missed a stitch, then it just starts migrating inward. It's where you have like a slanted situation with your scarf. And so if you want to have your scarf be straight and have everything be straight and right, you have to unstitch all of those crocheted stitches. And this is a month where a lot of stitches are going to be unstitched. But it's in the spirit of having a straight scarf, okay? So if you just imagine everything in your life that may become unstitched, those things had some flaws or had some challenges or had some weak links in their stitching, in their structure. And so by unstitching, yes, you feel like you maybe wasted time. Yes, you feel like you have to go back to the drawing board, but you're building stitch by stitch a beautiful straight scarf. Okay, and that will come in the form of your beautiful straight relationships, your life, your finances, your whatever it is that the stitches are coming out. You can assess where the weak links were, and then you can rebuild. Okay, so don't try to not focus, because Capricorn energy can be really focused on like the outcomes and the productivity, and can get really aggravated if things aren't going according to plan. So the more you can just like cast it away and just wait with expectant wonder about what may happen and curiosity, the more the synchronicities and the magical pieces can come in and you can enjoy them more. There are certain things that are just out of our hands, but the only thing that we can adjust is our perspective on those things that happen. And it seems like things get even more out of our hands whenever Pluto is involved in an aspect like it is, whenever the retrogrades happen and the eclipses happen. So those are just things to keep in mind so that you can move forward with the most ease and grace. All right, so now we're going to start the visuals. I've got this nice little grid here. And then we are going to also look at the charts. So I'm going to take some of the highlights piece by piece here. These are some of the things that were going on. These are the major highlights of things that are going on. If you'd like a written report delivered into your inbox 1 month early of all of the aspects of this month, what the aspects are, how they may manifest, plus a write-up of the general energy of the month, then you can sign up for my free email newsletter at anniehelpsyou.com, and then you can get much more detail than I'm even giving as far as the exact dates, because each day has this certain flow. And when you feel something going on that's weird, you're like, what's going on? And then you can refer to that newsletter like, oh, right, there's this square on this day, and that's why things are weird. And, so it makes it easier to flow with the energies and understand what's going on. Okay, so this first one we're going to talk about here is that June 2nd starts the Mercury shadow period. Mercury is a planet that rules communication and transportation. It also rules as the device and methods and modes of transportation and communication. It rules the patterns that we have in communicating with other people. It rules writing, projects, editing, the way we express ourselves, the degree to which we get what we want based on how we express ourselves or not. All of that is embodied in the energy of Mercury. So when Mercury goes retrograde, we often have confusion, miscommunications, arguments, those things that were swept under the rug come back up, and sometimes they're opportunities. Writing projects can come back from the past or other expression projects. But what's important to know about this date, June 2nd, is that this is the day that the shadow period starts. The actual retrograde starts between the 17th and 18th, depending on your time zone. But there's a time period before and after each retrograde where it's like a boiling pot. You turn the heat on June 2nd, and it starts building and building. With every day you get closer to 17th to 18th, the energies of the retrograde, the mishaps, the confusion, the ordeals, the things from the past start getting stronger and stronger. And then it will be retrograde until July 12th, and then the post-shadow period will run until July 26th. So essentially all June and July are covered in this retrograde. We're not going to go too much into that now. Just suffice to say, keep your plans light, your commitments light, and read paperwork really carefully. Things that you do now that are intended to be long-term may wind up being shorter term than you think. So just taking that into consideration, move forward that way. If you want more details about how to understand this transit and work with it, just search for Annie Botticelli Mercury Retrograde, and I have a blog and a video. Okay, so of special note, and we'll go into this more when we look at the charts, but Cancer is the sign that Mercury is going retrograde in, and Cancer is the sign that's opposite to yours. And whenever a planet is moving opposite yours, it creates a 180-degree angle, which is a point of conflict, but it can be a point of transcendence. And it can be a point of overstimulation, but it can be a point of overcoming as well. But it does tend to add stress and challenge and the feeling like you're being pulled in two different directions. So it's very important to understand that this retrograde is going to bring the energies in opposition to you, especially for certain dates. And we'll talk about those dates when we look at the chart. I mean, certain birth dates. Okay, so this June 5th lunar eclipse at 15 degrees of Sagittarius, it's the full moon eclipse. This starts the new series of eclipses that will run into 2021. It's the Sagittarius Gemini eclipses, okay? And so I talk about that eclipse and where it hits for Capricorns and a little bit of what you can expect in the May report. So make sure you review the May report and get those details. And then once you have those details, I'll refer you to special eclipse videos to see a very deep understanding of the things that tend to happen when it hits in that certain area for you. Okay, so we're not going to cover all of that now, but do know in the May report you can get that information, and then that's covered. But we are starting a new cycle. So you will see new themes that have been starting to kind of make their way in over the last 4 to 6, maybe 8 weeks before the eclipse that are going to become themes with this eclipse cycle. And those will have a pattern and storylines. Okay, on June 21st through 20th through 21st, depending on your time zone, we have the new moon solar eclipse at 0 degrees of Cancer. This is the second to last eclipse in the Cancer Capricorn eclipse cycle. You all have been having profound changes in your life. Anyone with strong Cancer or Capricorn placements, I'm one of you because my moon is in Capricorn and my Venus is in Capricorn. So I've been getting hit very triumphantly and harshly, as is the spectrum with these things with you. Okay, so I understand viscerally the life-changing experiences that have come for many of you since the middle of 2018 when this eclipse cycle started. So a lot of things are coming to a closure, coming to, an end of a major chapter or a wrap up. And you'll see a lot of the storylines that have been in play, not just for your home and family and work experience, but very much focused on those areas. Me, we, you versus relationship, your stuff, other people's stuff, the merging of things. Those storylines have been very strong for Capricorns during this time of the eclipse cycles. This eclipse cycle. those of you who are at the very beginning of the Capricorn, so like, you know, the first 5-ish days of, so it's not exactly the same day, it switches every year, but like, you know, the 21st through we'll say the 28th, because yeah, so around there, like those first days of the sign, and the first degrees. So we'll say up to like 5 to 7 degrees, if you know your moon or rising degree. You all will feel this eclipse in more of a powerful experience than the rest of the placements, because the opposition is going to be directly connecting with your placement, okay? So this, you know, can be very, very, very powerful and bring in very dramatic new beginnings and very dramatic endings. Usually along the lines of the kind of things that the themes that have already been coming up, but some new things could come in. Okay, so June 24th through 25th through 25th, depending on your time zone, Venus is going to go direct. So Venus rules love, beauty, design, money, and self-esteem, your relationship with money, your relationship to relationship. So all of that is, you know, kind of comes front and center with Venus in retrograde, and it has been retrograde in a sign that's not in particular harmony to your placement. So, you know, that could bring more aggravation or more challenges or more struggle. But as I always say, I'm a spiritual seeker. I'm looking for these transits to bring up the things that are unresolved so that I can resolve them, so that I can move forward in ways without that baggage. And if you look at it this way, you'll have revealed to you very clearly what you still have issues with, and it will come in the form of your experiences. And most importantly, how you feel about the things that happen to you. A lot of times when we have dramatic things happen and we feel a certain way, that felt perception is something that was begun in childhood and might have even happened to your mother when you were in the womb, or something where there's an imprint and it makes you feel a certain way. And then it comes up again with these transits, because the transits bring the unconscious factors into the consciousness right directly in front of you. So if you're looking for how you feel during these transits, then you'll be able to see what is unresolved by the themes that keep coming up, and you'll be able to work on them. All right, but the shadow period after Venus goes direct will last through July 29th, at which point Mars pre-transit shadow period will begin, which we'll talk about more at that time. So then the last thing to note, and then we'll look at the charts, is on June 30th, we have the second of 3 passes of Jupiter and Pluto. This is a huge, big deal, because these are titanic outer planets. When they come together, they do something. They have global effects, and you can see the global effects that are happening. The last time Jupiter and Pluto got together in Capricorn was when the market crashed in 2008. Okay, so you see what happened then. A lot of people who had negative effects at that time have just recovered recently, in recent years, for this situation. But many of the people that had trouble then are in a better position than they were at that point, and might be riding this storm out better because of the things they learned about how to manage things and keep things sustainable. So the lesson of sustainability through practice and through finances and through relationships, through energetic output, is one of the big storylines of Jupiter Pluto. So we had this happen at the beginning of April. It's happening now at the end of June. It's going to happen again in November. And this is part of what's related to the systems breaking down, the coronavirus. So if you haven't watched my video called How the Astrology of 2020 Explains the Coronavirus and the Systems Breaking Down, I highly recommend you do that. There is just a massive amount of information that can be really helpful for you to understand the bigger picture, because coronavirus, I keep hearing people say coronavirus caused the financial breakdown. That is not true. The coronavirus is a manifestation of the planetary transits energetically of the themes that humans are working with now, and the breakdown of the systems that were already in process as of when Pluto got there into Capricorn in 2008, which is also when Jupiter joined it. And that's what's going on. These themes are what's going on, not the coronavirus didn't cause this. All right. So the more you can understand about that, the more you can see your place in the whole situation and how you can shift your perspective to see the bigger picture of what's going on. But I do expect quite a bit of intensity. And since this energy is in the late Capricorn degrees, anyone with late Capricorn degrees in their placements, so those born in the last, even the last week of the sign, but especially like the last 5 days, 6 days of the sign, and my placement, one of my placements is there with you. So this is going to be intense for a lot of people, but it can be for better and worse. Okay, so we see all of the ruckus that's coming from it, but it can also launch major work and career things. So, and I've seen that happen for myself. So at the same time, all of this chaos is going on and things are breaking down and there have been negative consequences for me personally and for other people. There's also this potential for the building of these new structures, and anything that you've been building for your career or your work, even if it seems like something's going away, something new could come in its place. Okay, so it could be a very good time for things manifesting that you've been working on, or a very clear guidance as to how to shift your energies moving forward. And that can have a lot to do also with your skeletal structure. Capricorn rules the skeletal structure. So it's, your bones and your joints are all going to be under more duress during this time, especially you all in the late degree placements. And there are a lot of Capricorns actually that have issues with their joints and their bones and their teeth, because people with the placements of Capricorn are often deficient in the cell salt called calc-phos. It's an abbreviation for the cell salt, but it basically affects your mineralization. And I'm not going to get into all the details about this now, but when we're born, the time that we were in the womb, we were absorbing usually 9 of the 12 essential mineral salts. And so for the first 3 months out of the womb, and longer for people who were born premature, we didn't get that cell salt in the womb. And so it tends to be deficient throughout our lives, which is why we have problems with that. If you ever wonder why, like you might hear that Capricorns have issues with these joints, okay? Well, I'm a person that asks why. Like, why? Why is that? Okay, I know that, I'm an astrologer, I know that, but why? And this is the reason why. It's because you didn't, in the womb, get, for those of you who have this issue. And those of you later in the sign, this might be less of an issue for some of you because you were in the womb through part of the Capricorn zodiac sign, so you were able to absorb those salts, in the womb, so that, it is going to be dependent on that situation. But so you're always trying to chase it to get it back and having mineralization issues. So really guard your mineralization. And what could be helpful is this thing here. I'll put it on here. Calc, C-A-L-C, and then phos, P-H-O-S, cell salt, C-E-L-L, and then salt. And you can look more up about that. I'll probably be getting into that more in the future, but just to give you a little piece now, since this is going to come together, and we want to guard your bones and your teeth and all of those things. By the way, while I'm erasing this here and getting us onto our charts, weight-bearing exercise is one of the best ways to increase your bone density. And I'm telling you this not just as an astrologer, but also as a person who used to sell drugs back 20 years ago to increase your hip density, your bone density, and now as a person who lives in the alternative realms of thinking about this issue of bone density. A lot of times people have issues with their breakage of bones when they're older and younger, and that causes more problems for them. And so weight-bearing exercise, that doesn't necessarily mean just using weights. Look up different ways of weight-bearing exercise online. And the more you can do that, that's one of the best ways to actually strengthen your bone. So just a little snippet there in the spirit of wellness. Okay, so now we're going to look at the charts, and some of the things I talk about will be true for all Capricorn placements, but I'm going to drill down into the early, middle, and late spectrum depending on where you were born, and some information might be different depending. So early Capricorns are basically December born, or 0 to 9 degrees. Middle Capricorns around January 1st through 10th, or 10 to 19 degrees. And then the late degree around January 11th through the rest of the sign, or 20 to 29 degrees. And I'm at 29 degrees in that late Cap with you all, which is how I have come to know why late degree people often have different charts, because I have those charts. And when I would listen to horoscopes back in the day and I'd say, that doesn't make any sense, that's not happening for me, I figured out that it was because things are staggered for you all towards the end. All right, so we're going to use this, let's just use the middle degree chart, it doesn't really matter. What I'm about to talk about is some of what I talked about before, and it's going to be true for everybody unless I divvy out, okay? So it doesn't matter which chart we're using, I just want to show you the energies here. So see this conglomeration of Gemini energies? Well, that makes a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that's a 150 degree angle, 30 degrees in each sign. It's called a quincunx angle, and it is super awkward, okay? So whenever the planets get into Gemini, it makes an awkward angle for Capricorn placements, okay? So it's like dizzying, and it's all over the place, and it's not structured and organized, and it's too much information, and it's overwhelming, and you know, so expect that that's going to be happening, okay? There might be a lot of, I'm hoping a lot of movement, usually around this time when we're not in the epic, crazy, you know, quarantine situation. Usually this brings a lot of physical motion and movement. And maybe you're doing that jumping around your house or, you know, walking in your neighborhood or whatever, but a lot of times it creates mobility and travel. I don't know the degree to which travel is going to be part of this manifestation, but it certainly is a potential. And let's hope that, you know, everything is okay for that. So we talked about the Mercury thing here. And Mercury is going to be going retrograde, 14 degrees back to 5 degrees. Okay, so that's going to be dancing along, making this 180-degree angle that I talked about before. All right, so all of you will be experiencing that, but those of you that have placements between 5 and 14 degrees, or those of you that are about 5 days into the sign, so that's, you know, it depends on the day that the sun went into Capricorn, the year you were born, because it's not the same every year. That's why we don't have exact dates for this. But around like the 27th or so through there, 10, like the 4th, 5th, 6th of January. So, well, actually, let's see, that's 5, 10, yeah. Okay, so those of you within that grouping around the 27th of December to around the, you know, 5th or 6th or so, you all are going to have the Mercury retrograde going right over, opposing your placements, exactly. And so it's going to cross over, then it's going to retrograde back, and it's going to cross over again. So the odds that there are things from the past of note for you regarding, you know, news, big news, things involving family and houses and housing, you know, stubborn patterns from the past, opportunities from the past, the intensity is likely to be more increased for people with those placements because it's making that exact angle. Now, for the rest of you, you don't have the intensity from this particular transit as much, but the themes of Mercury retrograde will still hold true, just not in as exact an alignment. Okay, so now we will talk about that solar eclipse on June 20th through the 21st. And that's going to be at 0 degrees. All right, so we talked about that before. So anybody within like the first 5 degrees, so that's like December 22nd through the 27th, 28th, something like that, are going to be really having that major opposition for the eclipse. Okay, so you all can expect more radical changes from this particular eclipse in Cancer because it's going to oppose your Capricorn placements. And I always recommend, you know, I'm always trying to stretch you to use astrology more and to understand this more. And if you don't have a free birth chart run, find somewhere online, run a free birth chart, and see how many Capricorn placements you have and what degrees they're at. You see these things here? That's a degree, like, see, that's 24 degrees, that's 26 degrees, that's 14 degrees. So when you look at the birth chart that you can run for free, you can see how many Capricorn placements. See this symbol here? That's Capricorn. And take note of those degrees, because then when you watch my reports, when I talk about these degrees, you can say, oh, my sun isn't there, but I have Venus in Capricorn and I have it at that degree. And now I know that this aspect is going to hit that Venus for me. So that's going to pull in love and self-esteem and money in for me more. You know what I'm saying? So I encourage you to go deeper into your work and your practice of this. Okay, so the Pluto Capricorn, we talked about the Pluto-Jupiter conjunction in the late degree placements. That's going to carry much more intensity for you. Okay, so there are a couple of other things that I want to talk about, specific for Caps. And this has to do with, there's a lot of movement here through water. Right, and again, we're using one chart, but I'm filling in the early, middle, and late as it's relevant. All right. So those of you who are in the middle degree, so basically the first 10 days of January or so, you all have these 3 planets moving there. Now this Neptune is taking a long time, so we'll ignore that for now. But Mars and Ceres are making sweet angles to your Capricorn placements, okay? And that is really helpful where there's like emotional sustenance. You know, there's intuitive guidance. There's spiritual breakthroughs. There's things having to do with ethereal connections and like a deep retreat type of energy blending with your productive Capricorn, you know, ambitions. So it's a 60-degree angle, and it basically, you know, brings in like spirit and heart and flow to whatever your Capricorn placement is. So just kind of know that those of you in the middle there, you do have this this storyline going on that can help you to be more self-sustaining. And really the issue of sustainability is like a topic that everyone is going through in a big way because of these things with Jupiter and Pluto and Saturn moving back and forth at the high ends of Capricorn and into Aquarius. You know, it's like the storyline of where tradition and technology meet is like what we're all dealing with. And for those of you who are in the middle degree spectrum, right now you've got this like this chance to see things a different way, like a softening on your approach that can kind of work out better for you in the long run. So like for instance, let's say you were trying to reach a goal and you were going in a linear fashion from here to here. Well, these aspects, they bring in this like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not going to try to go from here to here. I think I'll just go take a walk and take my mind off of this. Well, during the walk, you meet somebody that winds up helping you with where you were trying to go. You see what I mean? So this energy of synchronicity is a really big thing. And for those of you who are around like January 9th, 10th, 11th, you're having Neptune do this. So this is like a longer term storyline of these shorter term things that I'm talking about here. Okay, so the late degree placements, you have Pluto and Jupiter dancing along. So you've got like this big transformation, busting up your old systems, you know, making you see the places where the traditions weren't working and like revitalizing your life. And even though everyone in the world is going through this because of the global things going on, those in the late degree placements, so like the last 10 days or so of the sign, you've just been going through or are going through now or about to go through this like very personal birth, death, transformation, rebirth, phoenix rising from the ashes. You've got these big heavy hitters here that are like bringing maximum transformation. And then those of you in the early section, you also have Uranus, and this is like around New Year's babies, like, or between, we'll say 7 and 9 or 10 degrees, if you know your degrees. You all are having Uranus make a trine. So this is like a really, really big deal. And for those of you who are after New Year's, you're going to have this coming. And for those of you who before, you've already been going through this, where like sudden things can come and line up. You know, innovation can come in a major way. Interesting synchronistic people, like relationships with people, can come in and change your whole life. Like you're walking down the street minding your own business and then you meet somebody and you're like, wow, I've never seen things in this way. Or you find somebody on YouTube and you're like, whoa, my whole life is just completely redone. So those of you like around the New Year's energies, you're having this special bump. So there is a lot going on for Capricorn energies right now. And most of these aspects are actually very sweet and very much you know, smooth aspects. Now that doesn't mean that every Capricorn is having an easy time, but if you take one thing from what I've shared about all of this is that you can change your perspective. All right, I want to show you what this is kind of cool. So we're going to look at the energy of Capricorn. So Capricorn energy goes in a straight line. It's called a cardinal placement. The cardinal placements are the ones where they start the new seasons and they start, you know, so winter starts when Capricorn starts. So all of the signs that are on the cusps of the seasons are the cardinal signs. They're initiatory, they instigate. And so they move in a straight line. And so depending on other things, which I'm not going to get into right now, it will show you which direction that moves. So even though we always think about Capricorn being up because it's the mountain goat that climbs the mountain, when you look at the actual energetic profile of Capricorn, it actually goes down in the straight line and it goes back. Okay? So that means that if somebody tells you something, sometimes the first instinct might be, I'm not buying it. I need more information, right? Like you go down, you're going to ground it out. You want something practical. You want something tactical. You want, give me the reality of it. That's a Capricorn thing that goes on. Something else that you might question is, how do we do it in the past? Okay, what did we do in the past that worked? Right? So the energy of Capricorn, part of why it is the way it is, part of why you have those personality traits. And remember, I'm here with you too, so I understand this from my own perspective. It's like, what worked before? What did people who knew this do? We're going to go down and we're going to go back, all right? But what that can bring, so there's good things that can bring. But when it's not bringing positive things, and this is what I want to talk about, like the climate of crisis and the climate of crossroads, because many of you have been going through crossroads, and in July you're going to have the final Capricorn eclipse, and there's just major crossroads for Capricorns going on continuously for the last couple of years, and now again, is that when this method or this mode of energy going down and going back is working for you, you don't have to mess with it, all right? Just let it be how it is. But if you are feeling depressed, if you are stuck in the past, if your tradition is failing you, if the things going on now have no basis for how you're going to deal with them in the future, then this model of how energy flows naturally through you has to be adjusted. And it requires kind of like if you write with your right hand and then for some reason you have to write with your left hand, you have to do it a different way. And when you're overwhelmed and when you're depressed and when you're stuck in the past and it's not working for you, then you'll know that this model isn't working. So the ways that you can counteract this energy in the times of crisis or stress or, all of this is for the counter forces. So anything that you can do that's uplifting, sometimes Capricorns like to listen to what they consider to be like practical, real world guidance. Maybe some of this energy needs to be shifted by looking at inspirational stuff, looking at things where there's some idealism and hope and, ideas for the future. Some of it might need to look forward without the tilt to the past. So people think of Capricorn energy as moving forward and looking forward. And that's not primary, that's secondary. Capricorn energy only looks forward to prevent the problems from the past. So it's like very past-based forward focus. It's very interesting. So you might have to let a lot of things go and leave a lot of things behind you. And just remember this. I want you to always remember this, because whenever things are getting you down or whenever the aspects are whacked out and you're feeling off and the model isn't working for you, remember what I said about, okay, I'm going down and I'm going back. In this that's not working for me. What am I going to do to get myself up? Get my serotonin up, exercise, look for a list of things that get your serotonin up. What can be like looking forward, idealism, hope, things having to do with technology, things having to do with advancement or brilliant ideas that have nothing to do with technology. So, I just want you to really, really feel into this, this pattern, because it's going to be really helpful moving forward as we move through crisis and for helping you to have the easiest time with the transits as possible. Okay, so my self-appointed task, the last thing we've got to do here is to see exactly what house or field of experience that 0-degree Cancer eclipse on June 20th, 21st is going to hit for you. And so it's going to depend on if you're early, middle, or late. So let's just have a reminder here. Early is basically the December born, or 0 to 9 degrees. And all of this is also true if you're for your moon in Cap and your rising Cap or sun in Cap. So the information I'm going to give you is going to be relevant either way. Middle degree, basically January 1st through 10th, or 10 to 19 degrees, and late degree, January 11th or so through the rest of the sign, or 20 to 29 degrees. Okay, so when we talked about the fact that the Cancer eclipse is going to be opposing your Capricorn placement. So for those of you who are like in the first 5 to 7 days, so most of the early degrees, you all have more of a chance to feel this in the 7th house of relationships. Okay, and then, of course, for everybody, it's in the home and family sign. So any family relationships are fair game for major effects for everyone in the zodiac. But there's a special extra slant for this 7th house of relationships for you early degree placements. And also your relationship to relationship. Okay. And then so for every degree we get further into the sign, this drops back into the 6th house. Okay, so middle degree, it's really in the 6th house for you, and late degree, that's definitely in the 6th house. Okay, so that's work, job, employment, pets, health. That's just a quick summary. So if you want to have a lot of information on how this may present for you based on my experience doing thousands of readings and doing astrology for so long, I have created a special eclipse series. And so the early degree placements, you will be able to look up Annie Botticelli and Eclipse. This is on my homepage, AnnieHelpsYouTV.com, or Annie Botticelli YouTube. So eclipses in Libra or 7th house. Okay, so that will give you more information about the relationship aspect of how, because it's not just as simple as that. There are a lot of other ways or subtle nuances I've seen this manifest as. And then early, middle, and late, look up the 6th house or eclipse. Let's see, it's going to say eclipses in Virgo or 6th house. And that will give you lots more details about where this field of experience is going to be highlighted from this June 28th, 21st eclipse for you. And also remember that we often see effects from the eclipses 4 to 6 and sometimes 8 weeks before. So even the end of April can start bringing big news for this, this eclipse, and things anytime along the line since the middle of 2018 have been in process. So you'll see a lot of things kind of coming to fruition or coming to an end along the fronts of the relationship sector, or the 6th house things there that you can, look deeper into, and the home and family and the work and career. Also, everybody, all signs, and everyone in the Capricorn spectrum can look up eclipses. This is on my channel, or you can just look up my name, Annie Botticelli, Botticelli, eclipses in Cancer or 4th house. Okay, and that's going to talk about the sign that the eclipse is in. And then, of course, since we have that upcoming eclipse for the Capricorn one, you can look up eclipses in Capricorn, Annie Botticelli. And then, because of the Sag one, you can look up eclipses in Sag. So I've just equipped you with all of these possibilities where it's hitting with these different dimensions of your experience, so that you can really go in deep and understand the types of changes that might occur. So if you would love to learn astrology and you resonate with how I teach, go to lumelife.com, L-U-M-E life.com, and all of my links are also in the notes below if you click on more under the video. You can also go to beastropro.com, B-E-A-S-T-R-O pro.com, to see my Become a Professional Astrologer Mastery course, which you can use even if you don't want to be a professional astrologer. But I'll take you from ground level, knowing nothing, or any stage where you are, even if you have an extensive study, and help you soar with it. That's of course, teaching is my area of specialty. And so check that out. You can also see all of the other courses I have at Loom Life. My school is called Luminous Life Multiversity. And I have a lot of free courses, and more free courses are going to be going up over time as well, including a course that's a free course called Claiming Victory Over Viruses, to help you keep your wellness and to help you understand the imprint energetically of a virus, including the relationship between viruses and autoimmune disease and cancers, in case you're in a situation like that, to kind of address those things with the knowledge of understanding the viral level. So I would love for you to get my book, Planetology, How to Align with the Natural Rhythms of the Universe, because this is a book that I've created for you to align with the natural rhythms of the universe, which is what I try to tell you all of this information. So basically, the more you understand about getting your alignment, the more you can flow with the cycles and the transits and the aspects. You can go to anniehelpsyou.com for a ton of free resources through my blogs. You can go to cozybysweetstarlight.com for written horoscopes and a ton of other fun Astrology Kissed blogs. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.